Okay, back at it, cryptosporidium. A significant disease, and I know I probably say that about every disease, but it's one of these diseases we're seeing more and more of. When I look at my time over the last 10 years kind of investigating at herd level diseases, cryptosporidium is one of those ones that's on the rise all the time. Very difficult disease. It's caused by cryptosporidium parvum, and it typically causes scouring in calves. So the symptoms are scour because of the damage that this oocyst and this parasite does to the lining of the gut. Very painful. So very important thing is cryptosporidium can affect humans. Cryptosporidium parvum can affect humans. Take care, farmers. I've seen it happen on farm, particularly very older people or younger people, to be really careful about this. And in humans it causes a lot of abdominal pain, and just remember that when we're talking about treatments in our calves, it's very, very painful. When does it affect calves? Generally from a week of age to 8 weeks, but generally that window of 1 week to 5 weeks. I have seen it cause significant mortality, particularly where colostrum isn't done right. Mortality of 10% or more, so it's really a significant disease when it gets in on farm. Now this is very busy down here, but this is a really important concept when it comes to all calf scour, and particularly cryptosporidium. Where does this parasite come from? Most likely, it can be in water, but the most likely source is adult cow's dung. Will have small numbers in it. But these calves are like like parasite virus factories if you look at rotavirus, but the same principles apply. But like factories for this cryptosporidium. So small amount is ingested by one calf, couple of hundred oocysts, and it can produce 1 billion. So you can imagine then that calf becomes infected and infects more calf, and you just literally get billions of these oocysts in the environment. And I use glitter on farms to show this effect. I call it the glitter effect, but really massive levels of these oocysts, and these are ready to infect. When a calf produces these out the back end, they're ready to infect new calves. So you've that build up, and that's really important. And I'm probably going back to this most videos, but it's this balance, the seesaw between immunity, infection, pressure. When do we see clinical disease? Depends on how immunity is and how much infection is there. So if we have a huge amount of infection in the environment, then more or less, regardless of immunity, we're going to see clinical disease. We'll see it earlier where immunity is compromised. When I talk about cryptosporidium, with all this writing, it's back to these two key components, fundamental. Colostrum management and hygiene are absolutely critical. So that's the spread of crypto, and you can imagine even when animals stop scouring, they can still be spreading cryptosporidium. But it's that effect, it's that multiplying effect where these calves become parasite factories producing billions of them in the environment. And you can see then why immunity helps slowing it down, but hygiene is so critical to slowing the spread. And I'm going to talk a little bit about treatments, but halofuginone is as a preventative. This is where you want to be using halofuginone early on in your calves to prevent this excess shedding, because it does slow down that shedding. Okay, so cryptosporidium is colostrum and hygiene. I suppose very important. Get a diagnosis if you are getting scour. Is it cryptosporidium you're dealing with? Have you other agents like rotavirus, coronavirus, or E. coli, or something else in there, particularly rotavirus, because the two combined really can drive up mortality. So if I look at, and this is my terrible artwork, but if you look at calving pens, if you look at pens of calves in the dairy system, you know, how do we reduce spread if we get crypto? So we have one animal here that's starting to shed, you know, that's what the principle of isolation, not always easy to do, but between pens, you know, loads of straw, equipment, feeding equipment needs to be cleaned regularly. You need to almost set up SOPs. Your stomach tube, if you're stomach tubing that calf and then you're going in your stomach tubing this calf, potential spread. Drainage working well, but of course ourselves can be a source of spread. So if you have anyone coming into your calf shed, you need to be very careful about biosecurity. But inside in our calf pens, we need to be very careful about spreading cryptosporidium. Again, some farms work well where they have an outdoor area where calves can go out to. It makes it easier to clean out pens, particularly during an outbreak. But another important point is if we're batching calves together, remember older calves will be getting over cryptosporidium, they might still be shedding it, or they might be showing clinical signs, but more risks for younger calves. So that's why we don't mix age groups. Let's go back to colostrum. One of my favourite subjects is colostrum. It's absolutely key to every disease, and especially cryptosporidium. Focus in on colostrum, the 3 Qs, the quantity of colostrum is right, the quality of that colostrum, which a lot of it's down to feeding in our dry cow period, and that we get it in quickly. One other thing with colostrum and crypto is make sure it's going in hygienically as possible. If that's your suckler cow, having your udder as clean as possible, and if that's your dairy cow, our harvesting of colostrum, we have standard operating procedures around dump buckets, and any buckets that colostrum is going into, we need to maintain cleanliness. Then hygiene becomes important. So cryptosporidium, colostrum and hygiene might sound simple, not easy to do, but they're the two pillars for cryptosporidium control. So if we look at treatments for cryptosporidium, it's your classic scour damaging the lining of the gut. Halofuginone, I don't like it as a treatment. I think it works well as a preventative but not as a treatment. Parafor, which is an oral antibiotic, again, you know my opinion on prophylaxis and antibiotics, it can be used. Symptomatic, really important that these calves get fluids regularly. Really key is regular fluid treatments. I've talked about oral rehydration therapy already in videos, and they stay on milk, because these calves can get very weak very fast. Remember, it's painful. Talk to your vet about anti-inflammatory medication. Not always recommended with scours, but I have found that where anti-inflammatories are used with rapid use of oral fluids, then you have your probiotics and acidifiers. No real research to say that they make a huge difference to crypto, but I think, look, anything that's going to help the gut come back. But the key thing is fluid therapy fast. And if you have calves that have got good quality colostrum, they'll recover from cryptosporidium. Where you have anything with any suppression of immunity, you can get real problems. Milk feeding, again, this is one of my own theories. I really feel that where milk feeding has been cut down, or we go on to once a day feeding in calves too quickly, where I have seen cryptosporidium, you can get really bad outbreaks. And of course, crypto is always worse when combined with rotavirus. So vaccinating your dams against rotavirus, coronavirus, will help where you have crypto, because the combination of the two together can be a massive suppression on the immune system. So the treatments, really, I've kind of mixed up treatments and prevention there. I suppose if you look at halofuginone, which is the only licensed product, the time for that to go in is early on in the season. Now, it has some drawbacks. It's quite toxic. It needs to be given to a calf after milk feeding, so it's on a full stomach. There's 8 to 12 mils depending on your size of your calf, the amount of infection pressure you have there. I never use it as a treatment anymore because I find it very hard in calves, but as preventative I found good results with it. That's just my own opinion. So if we know the cryptosporidium is highly resistant to this infection and really a challenge from year to year, can survive a long time in between batches and in between years, just like I talked about coccidiosis yesterday, becomes really important. So year to year, if you've had crypto last year, or if you're in the middle of a cryptosporidium problem, you need to look at how you can clean things out as well as possible. And year to year, I have a very simple rule. I said it again yesterday: get the SH1T out of the shed. You've got to remove the fecal material, because that's where the cryptosporidium parvum is, as easy as possible. Cryptosporidium is very prone to, doesn't like dry weather, but particularly doesn't like high temperatures. So steam cleaning on day 2, and then an appropriate disinfectant, because not every disinfectant will kill cryptosporidium in the environment. Like something like hydrogen peroxide, I've used that in the past, and there's many disinfectants that will work against it in the environment. But just have that conversation with your vet around which disinfectant would work well. Again, very important, if we know that this is a really important little badly drawn diagram, but if we know the calving pin can be an initial source of infection, keeping calving pins clean, looking at how many cows are going through a calving pin, plenty straw, drainage. With dairy calves, we can remove calves as fast as possible from the dairy calving pen, because that can be the initial source of infection. Doesn't mean you have to not maintain hygiene throughout, really important. So how easy is your calving pins to clean? How easy are your calf pins to clean out? Might sound very simple, but really important. And now suckler cows, it's more difficult, because you have your calf with your cow, get them out. They can still get crypto outside. I think restricted feeding, sometimes I've used that, where calves are let in with cows for a couple of hours in the day and then out to pens where we can manage their hygiene a bit better. So where you have crypto issues, you really need to look into hygiene. You need to look in how you clean the pens, how often, and looking even at the calf journey from calving pin to the pins to equipment. Remember, your stomach tube can spread it. So if I stomach tube a sick calf here, and then I go over here and I stomach tube another calf, we can spread crypto. So we need to think about how we spread disease, and consistency around routine. And we're trying to, in a very difficult situation, is minimize fecal exposure for calves, and we do that by plenty straw, keeping things as clean as possible, and when they are getting exposure, they've got colostrum in good quantities, really high quality, and that they've got it quickly. That gives them the fighting chance. Cryptosporidium is a difficult disease, and it really, while controls don't seem that complicated, I mean, there's two things there that are fundamental to it. It involves looking at, you know, the whole system and trying to go piece by piece. How can I improve hygiene here? How can I get better at colostrum quality? If I'm using something like halofugin to prevent it, what's my best timing? Am I using it correctly? And try and minimize down the spread. It's a very frustrating disease for farmers, I know, but it can be tackled. And if you've had a run of cryptosporidium this year, you've got to think about it over the summer, because you don't want to go through that again. If you're in the middle of it, you've got to apply these hygiene principles as best you can within the season. And of course, it would make sense that it's always at the tail end of a calving season that infection pressure builds up, because everyone's getting tired. It's harder to maintain routines, but it just shows the importance of maintaining good hygiene routines to stop that spread. Okay, so thought for the day: doing the right thing isn't always the easy thing. We're gone into full lockdown mode here, and it's not easy. But I think, look, doing the right thing is so important for everybody right now. Keep up the momentum. I think as a country in Ireland, we're doing certainly great work around stopping the spread of coronavirus. Not easy, but doing the right thing isn't always easy, and that's my thought for today. Keep that social distancing, keep it up. We're all in this together, and happy, safe farming, everybody, as well.